Stalin's Last Years and Heirs by Rowan and Nicole. Stalin's last years were devoted to recovering from the Second World War. He sought out to do this by creating more 5-year plans, carrying out more purges, and creating a buffer of smaller communist countries on the Soviet Union's Western Front. The collective farms were combined together to create larger farms where more people shared the property. Stalin continued to clear out anyone who opposed him and threatened his authority so that he could continue to rule in absolute power. Stalin died in March 1953 of a stroke. He had died of natural causes, but there was arguments that he was poisoned. Stalin did not eat any food or meals without the closest advisors testing it first. Stalin had collapsed on the 1st of March in 1953, but was not actually pronounced dead until the 5th of March 1953. Stalin did not receive any medical attention because it was assumed by his associates that he was drunk. So they just carried him to the couch and assumed he would regain consciousness. Now there was a motive for murder, even if it wasn't murder. Stalin had been planning to get rid of most of his closest advisors. Now whether or not Stalin was murdered, his death was just the beginning of the Soviet Union's long journey to ending. Khrushchev, 1953 to 1964. Nikita Khrushchev was Stalin's successor. There had been a struggle to decide how the next leader would act and who it would be. The one thing that was unanimously decided was the fact that whoever the next leader was, they would not be allowed to be a tyrant like Stalin had been. Khrushchev wanted to rule with the support of his country's people and with other countries' approval, not with terror. Khrushchev saw the need for change in the Soviet Union. His main goal was to clean up Stalin's mess. Khrushchev had plans for reform in the country. He criticized Stalin and worked to get rid of the trust that the people of the Soviet Union had in Stalin. This would show them that he was needed to fix the country and improve how they lived. Khrushchev planned on having Stalin's policies abolished through de-Stalinization. The program included releasing more political prisoners, involving Marshal Tito to Moscow, dismissing Molotov, Stalin's former foreign minister, and closing down Cominform, which helped to reconcile with Yugoslavia. He also opened land for farming by cultivating the virgin lands, such as Siberia and Islamic republics. This program ended up being unsuccessful because there was a lack of rainfall. His next project had been to produce more goods for the consumer and improve the citizens' way of life. He did this by shortening the work week, increasing wages, and workers were now given the freedom to decide where they wanted to work. Khrushchev attempted peace with the West, but it was not a success. He tested them by challenging them to allow communism to develop, and whoever country was ahead socially and economically in 50 years would get to teach the other countries whose way is better. Khrushchev then allied with the Cuban rebel leader. His name was Fidel Castro. Khrushchev then put Russia's newly developed missiles in Cuba, and this worried the United States. Khrushchev was forced to retire after embarrassment of the Cuban Missile Crisis. Brezhnev, 1964 to 1982. After Khrushchev, the Soviet Union had been led by a leadership team. Leonid Brezhnev was the most powerful out of this team, which made him the leader of the Soviet Union. Now, unlike Khrushchev, Brezhnev looked up to Stalin's achievements. While Brezhnev was leader, he did what he could to repair Stalin's image and undid many of Khrushchev's reforms. The people assumed that there would be further reduction in censorship and state control. Some people felt the only way for the Soviet Union to move forward was to allow the people more freedom, and if Brezhnev continued to reverse the reforms, the Soviet Union would fall. Brezhnev created the Brezhnev Doctrine. This said that no communist country would revert to capitalist without the Soviet Union using force to stop them from doing so. The non-Russian minorities wanted independence from the Soviet Union, and many protests erupted. Not only had the economy planning failed, but so had Brezhnev's attempted peace with the West. His doctrine had helped to do this when he stopped a democracy from forming in Czechoslovakia. He also spent more money on improving the Soviet Union's military and weaponry than on reforms. Alcohol abuse grew because people saw no improvement in their lives. The Soviet Union was in crisis when Brezhnev died in 1982. Andropov, 1982 to 1984, and Chernenko, 1984 to 1985. Brezhnev was succeeded by Yuri V. Andropov. He was only in office for 15 months, but he did want to reform the system that Brezhnev had corrupted. Andropov's plans were later developed by Gorbachev. In the end, not many of Gorbachev's proposals got carried out. He became deathly ill and died in February of 1984. Andropov's successor, Konstantin Chernenko, was also very sick while leader of the Soviet Union. He was fine to just go with the flow and just keep the country running instead of making it work better. He was in office for only 13 months until he died in 1985. Gorbachev, 1985 to 1991. After Chernenko died, Mikhail Gorbachev took office. Gorbachev set out to fix Brezhnev's mistakes and continue on with Khrushchev's work. He did this through a program that 4 Russian terms can explain: Perestroika, Glasnost, Demokratizatsiya, and Novaya Myshlение. Perestroika means restructuring. This part mainly involved the economy. He encouraged the small businesses and began to pass laws that took away the power that laid mainly with the Communist Party over industry. Glasnost means openness. This was Gorbachev's plan to relinquish the grasp the government had on the media. He reduced censorship, and there was more freedom to artists, writers, actors, and everyone in the country. Demokratizatsiya means democratization. Gorbachev wanted to allow limited choice with the communist system. For example, more than one candidate for the party post. This involved allowing other non-communist parties to participate in contest elections against Communist Party candidates. Novaya Myshlenie means new thinking. Brezhnev wanted to end the Cold War and the arms race. He made a speech to the United Nations in 1988 stating clearly that the new Soviet Union wanted to cooperate with Western countries in solving global issues. Yeltsin and the fall of the Soviet Union. Now Demokratizatsiya had caused new political parties to start forming. This caused many Eastern European countries to start rejecting communism and wanted to be independent from the Soviet Union. These different views on Demokratizatsiya split the Communist Party into 2. In 1990, Boris Yeltsin became the elected president of Russia. Keep in mind, Russia was a state of USSR at the time. Yeltsin left the Communist Party and became a part of a group of people who wanted to destroy the Soviet communism. In 1991, Gorbachev was temporarily arrested by a group of strict communists trying to seize power before Gorbachev was taken over by reformists. Their coup soon failed as Yeltsin and his reformists stepped in and took control. Gorbachev soon resigned from his post as a leader of the Communist Party. The CIS was formed in December of 1991, the Commonwealth of Independent States. This formation included 11 former Soviet republics. Gorbachev then resigned from office since the Soviet Union no longer existed for him to lead. Boris Yeltsin remained president of Russia. Each leader that existed throughout the history of the Soviet Union brought different ideas. Some were successful and some were not. But each acted to shape what is now not the Soviet Union, but modern-day Russia. Thanks for watching!